A powerful exhibit is opening. Take a look here. These are 16 objects returning to Germany for the first time since the Holocaust. This is at the German parliament. Now, the curator of this exhibition says that he wanted to bring a new energy to the objects themselves and also to the gaps that they have left behind in history.
Also today, of course, is Holocaust Remembrance Day. It is the anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz death camp when Russian soldiers liberated those folks. It also marks Yad Vashem's 70th anniversary, Israel official memorial to the victims of the Holocaust. Jerusalem correspondent Daniel Cohen walks us through today's remembrance ceremonies.
It was on this day, January 27, 1945, Soviet troops liberated Auschwitz, the Nazi death camp where over 1 million Jews perished. Now in its 70th year, the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial Museum in Jerusalem exists for one reason: to help people remember. Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff in Poland Friday as part of ceremonies for the 78th anniversary of the liberation of the camp. He laid a wreath at the site of executions known as the Wall of Death. The wall has become a focal point for commemorations at the camp, with several others gathering to pay tribute to those who were murdered during World War II. In all, some 1.1 million people were killed at the vast complex before it was liberated.
It's very difficult to be here. I was in Bergen-Belsen. I saw there and now here. And you can't believe it.
This year, the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial Museum in Jerusalem marks 70 years in existence. Its Hall of Names is dedicated to preserving the memory of the 6 million Jews who died and Gentiles who selflessly aided Jews in their desperate need. Since the 1950s, Yad Vashem has collected over 100,000 audio, video, and written testimonies by survivors. Auschwitz, with its barracks, barbed wire, and the ruins of gas chambers, today stands as one of the world's most recognized symbols of evil. My grandmother, Laura, is one of the 2% who survived. She told me often before she died, just shy of her 99th birthday, "I'm alive and my captors are dead." To honor her memory and the lives of those who perished on this day, may we say, never again and never forget. Now back to you.
Daniel Cohen for us in Jerusalem. Well, today, of course, is a vivid but grim reminder of the dark days of World War II and Nazi aggression. For one woman who, as a child, survived the horror, she's now sharing her story of hiding from the Nazis in a barn for years.
Her name is 80-year-old Goldie Jacoby. She says she was just 5 years old when Hitler's invasion spreaded like a firestorm across Poland. She and her family were forced to hide in a tiny spot in a barn for years. They're constantly hungry, thirsty, never able to stand up or even change clothes as Nazi soldiers were patrolling the area. Now, she often tells the story to students and adults using no written notes, just her sharp memory and an ability to bring both smiles and, as you can imagine, tears to her audience. And joining us right now is Goldie Jacoby. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is our honor to share your story now with our viewers here at Newsmax, Goldie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
it's important. I whatever you showed, it always brings tears in my eyes, because that's what you told was my husband's story, concentration camps. I was in hiding. Yes, I was about 5 or 6 years old when the whole world fell apart. I was watching babies being thrown against the wall and thinking that I am going to be next. I saw my grandparents being with a rifle butt hit in the head and died right in front of me. And the fear, always afraid, always scared. It left us really. My husband and I, he already passed, but we decided we'll dedicate our lives to speak and tell the story, because anti-Semitism and racism generally is the cancer of humanity, and we really have to wipe that out. We have to, for the next generation. I am 85, not 80, by the way, but
Well, you would
Thank
never
you.
know, Goldie. I would bet you're 70. That looks more like it. And seeing that picture of you and your husband smiling back then, it only makes the chill bumps on my skin stand up even more. And to hear you talk about this, I wanted to ask you about your memories of when Auschwitz was liberated on this day 78 years ago, and what you remember. I would imagine there was some relief, but also a lot of grief as well, thinking about trying to heal and get on with the rest of your life. Talk to us about that.
Remember, I was 5, 6 years old when we visited our grandparents and got stuck there in Poland in a little town where the Nazis marched in and ghettoed the place. We children had no idea about concentration camp or anything like that. We were just in prison, and then they told us all to go on this field, and they started taking the babies out of the mother's arms and throwing them against the brick wall, which I had to witness. And they took all the old people at the same time just to show us what's going to happen to us. And the next thing was to kill us all. And we were hiding under boards and somehow survived that carnage that they were doing all day, all night. They were just killing the rest of the town. After that, we escaped, and somehow it's a story that it's unbelievable. We wandered around in the forests and tried to survive. We were listening. We children, 4 children, were listening to our mothers saying, "Let's kill the children. Let's throw them in a well because we don't need to watch them suffer." We were hungry, thirsty. To finally, we found a long story. To finally, we found a righteous Gentile to let us in, and we were a family of 10.
Oh.
And we pleaded, and he couldn't. He is poor. He didn't have any money. He didn't have any way of feeding us, and scared of the neighbors. Somehow we managed to stay in his barn under the pigs for almost 3 years. Imagine, hungry, thirsty. He couldn't feed us. Just threw us a bread here and there when he could, and the lice were eating us up, filthy. All these years, almost 3 years, not bathing, no water, somehow we survived. And most of us are good human beings,
I want to know where you have the strength. I mean, these are unspeakable horrors. And for you as a survivor for so many years to be so generous of spirit to, in a way, relive them so others will always know the horror that you endured. Where do you find the strength to keep doing that? And obviously it's of utmost importance that we hear these stories. But personally for you, I'm sure it also brings you back to that moment.
Oh, yes. Most of us, I tell you, some of us committed suicide. Some of us who fought. I personally tried it also. I was very depressed when I was younger. I had 2 children. 2 children, didn't know what to do with them. I had no business having children that young, but circumstances, brought me to that. And then I decided, and when I survived it, I said, I have 2 choices. Either I live a normal life and try to be productive, or I just commit suicide. And I chose the latter. So
You chose
decided,
life. And now you are a gift to all of us. Truly. To be able to share your story so that we do truly never forget what happened. Goldie, we appreciate you being with us and sharing your story, and of course surviving not just the Holocaust, but the mental health trauma that came after the fact. And we don't talk about that a lot.
No.
Back then, folks didn't talk about mental health as much as we talk about it now. But think about all the survivors who had to carry that, just like Goldie did. Goldie Jacoby, we were really honored to have you with us today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.